was born an alcoholic and an immigrant. Buried his own father at the age of 11. Dropped out of Dartmouth, then Harvard. Suffered tuberculosis. Lost his firstborn and his youngest daughter to cholera. Watched his two surviving children undergo devastating divorces after miserable marriages, and became the greatest poet of the 20th century. In January of 1963, Robert Frost passed away in a hospital in Boston. Now it's October, Amherst College of the Arts. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, the poster child of autumn, still 1960 ceremony, to commemorate the life of the late Robert Lee Frost. John F. Kennedy takes the stage and will deliver a speech in honor of a man and an American whose devotion to poetry, to art, to truth in its pursuit is derived from a conception of duty. President Kennedy approaches the podium to exhort the elite here at Amherst College of the Arts and to make a case for the role of the artist in the city. Perhaps in the wake of the Cuban Missile Crisis, his is a highly developed presentation on the unconstrained vision of man. That is, that the hinge upon which democracy and its success turns is the strength of individual conscience and magnanimity. And without magnanimous individuals who consciously invest their talents in serving and improving society, democracy becomes tyranny. For President Kennedy, the true artist is motivated by a concern for justice and genuinely seeks truth, and is the key to flourishing the individual moral strength in a nation, nourishing our capacity to consider two roads diverged in our wood, as Robert Frost did, and to take the one less traveled by. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the President of the United States of America, John F. Kennedy.
Many years ago, Woodrow Wilson said, "What good is a political party unless it is serving a great national purpose? And what good is a private college or university unless it is serving a great national purpose?" The library being constructed here today, this college itself, all this, of course, has not been done for the graduates of this college to have an advantage, an economic advantage in the life struggle. It does do that. But in return for that, in return for the great opportunity which society gives to the graduates of this and related schools, in return for that, it seems to me incumbent on this and other schools' graduates to recognize their responsibility to the public interest. Privilege is here, and privilege goes with responsibility. I think, as your president said, that it must be a source of satisfaction to you that the graduates of this college have recognized it. I hope that those who are here now will also recognize it in the future. There is inherited wealth in this country and inherited poverty. And unless those who graduate from this college and other colleges like it, who are given a running start in life, unless they are willing to give back to society those talents, the broad sympathy, the understanding, the compassion, unless they're willing to give those qualities back to the service of the great republic, then obviously the presuppositions upon which our democracy is based are bound to be fallible. Therefore, I am proud to come to this college, whose graduates have recognized this obligation, and to say to those who are here now that the need is endless, and I'm confident that you will respond. Robert Frost said, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." I hope that road will not be the less traveled by, and I hope that your commitment to this great republic's interests in the years to come will be worthy of your long inheritance since your beginning. This day, devoted to the memory of Robert Frost, is an opportunity for reflection, which is prized by politicians as well as by others, and even by poets. For Robert Frost was one of the granite figures of our time in America. He was supremely two things: an artist and an American. A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers. In America, our heroes have customarily run to men of large accomplishments, but today, this college and country honor a man whose contribution was not to our size, but to our spirit. Not to our political beliefs, but to our insight. Not to our self-esteem, but to our self-comprehension. In honoring Robert Frost, we can therefore pay honor to the deepest sources of our national strength. And that strength takes many forms, and the most obvious of those forms is not always the most significant. The men who create power make an indispensable contribution to this nation's greatness, but the men who question power make a contribution just as indispensable, especially when that questioning is disinterested, for they determine whether we use power or power uses us. At bottom, Robert Frost held a deep faith in the spirit of man. And it's hardly an accident that he coupled poetry and power. For he saw poetry as the means of saving power from itself. When power leads men toward arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the areas of man's concern, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of his existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. For art is the establishment of basic human truth, which must serve as the touchstone of our judgment. If sometimes our great artists have been the most critical of our society, it is because their sensitivity and their concern for justice, which must motivate any true artist, make them aware that our nation falls short of its highest potential. I see little of more importance to the future of our country and our civilization than full recognition of the place of the artist. If art is to nourish the roots of our culture, then society must set the artist free to follow his own vision of the truth. We must never forget that art is not a form of propaganda. It is a form of truth. As Mr. MacLeish once remarked of poets, there is nothing worse for their trade than to be in style. In free society, art is not a weapon, and it does not belong to the spheres of polemic and ideology. Artists are not engineers of the soul. Artists are not engineers of the soul. It may be different elsewhere, but in democratic society, the highest duty of the writer, the composer, the artist is to remain true to himself and let the chips fall where they may. In serving his vision of the truth, the artist best serves his nation. I look forward to a great future for America, a future in which our country will match its military strength with our moral restraint, its wealth with our wisdom, its power with our purpose. I look forward to an America that is not afraid of grace and beauty, which will protect the beauty of its natural environment, which will preserve the great American houses and squares and parks of our national past, and which will build handsome and balanced cities for our future. I look forward to an America that rewards achievement in the arts as we reward achievement in business or statecraft. I look forward to an America that will steadily raise the standards of artistic accomplishment and steadily enlarge cultural opportunities for all our citizens. And I look forward to an America which commands respect throughout the world, not only for its strength, but for its civilization as well.